Emeka's patience was hanging by a thin thread. "I am not your husband," he snapped. Anwulika folded her arms and raised her chin defiantly. "See, we are husband and wife, oh, let me just tell you. Your people came to my people and paid bride price. So whether you like it or not, I am your wife." Emeka's eyes widened in pure disbelief. His mind raced. This is actually real. Sometimes what we want is not what we actually need. Most times, you find what you need when you are not even searching, and in the most unexpected place. This was the case of Emeka, but then, thank God he did not lose his mind in the process. Emeka was a very handsome young man. He had a successful career, a company he had built through his hard work and resilience from scratch. He is what you would call a fulfilled man, every woman's dream. Yet, for all his achievements, there was one thing missing: love. But did Emeka care? Absolutely not. Women to him were distractions. He did not have time for romance, and he made sure everyone around him knew it. His female employees, however, refused to accept this reality. Every single day, they staged an unspoken competition for his attention. Skirts got shorter, makeup got heavier, and perfumes became stronger. But Emeka, he remained unmoved. He barely noticed them. Smiling, that was a luxury he couldn't afford. If you ask me, I'd say the man was too serious for his own good. But while Emeka thought he was living his best life, his mother thought otherwise. Mama Emeka was not a woman to be toyed with, and this issue of marriage had become her full-time job. As his only child, she had invested all her love, prayers and energy into him. And now in her old age, all she wanted was to hear the joyful cries of grandchildren echoing through her house. She had begged, she had prayed, she had even switched to threats. "Emeka, I want to carry my grandchildren before I enter the grave." But her son, as stubborn as ever, always had the reply ready. "Mama, don't be dramatic. You are still strong. Then give me a reason to leave, Emeka. Emeka, bring me a wife. I'm busy, Mama. I need to build this company to a certain level. A family will slow me down. Right now, I just need to focus." Busy. That was always his excuse. Busy signing million-dollar deals, busy expanding his business empire, busy running away from anything that resembled a relationship. But Mama Emeka was not a woman to be outsmarted. She was done playing games with her son. Since he had refused to find a wife for himself, she decided to take matters into her own hands. And that was how Anwulika entered the picture. Anwulika was everything Emeka was not. She was a burst of sunshine in human form, cheerful, full of life and blessed with the gift of talking. No, scratch that. Anwulika could talk for Africa. Silence was her enemy, and she had made it her life's mission to fill every moment with words or laughter. But it wasn't just her personality that stood out. She was hardworking, respectful, and most importantly, from a very respectable family in the same village as Emeka. When Mama Emeka embarked on her quest to find the perfect wife, Anwulika was the first name that came to her mind. She wasted no time approaching the girl's family, and as if they had been waiting for this golden opportunity, they eagerly agreed. After all, who wouldn't want their daughter to marry a wealthy, successful man like Emeka, who lived in the city? Mama Emeka did not stop there. She went as far as consulting her late husband's brothers, seeking their approval and blessings. Together, they completed all the necessary traditional rites. And just like that, without his knowledge or consent, a wife was married for Emeka. What could possibly go wrong? Anwulika was over the moon with excitement. The thought of becoming a rich man's wife and moving to the city filled her with so much joy that she could barely sleep at night. But there was one thing she was certain about. If she was going to be a city wife, she had to look the part. Before the arranged marriage was even finalized, Anwulika made a life-changing decision. She would no longer dress like an ordinary village girl. No. She was about to be a city madam, and she had to start looking like one immediately. So with all the confidence in the world, she marched straight to Bongo Market, the land of endless possibilities. There, among the heap of okrika, fairly used imported clothes, she hunted for the perfect outfits to transform her into a sophisticated city woman. And thus began the era of Anwulika's deadly combinations. She bought bright yellow blouses with sequins that sparkled aggressively under the sun. She paired it with long, shapeless skirts that seemed to have been designed for a nun. She went ahead to pick other deadly combinations, and with that she walked back to the village, dressed in her new fashion-forward ensemble. Mouths dropped. The other maidens could only stare in shock and admiration. Her best friend Amaka blinked at her. "Anwule, what are you wearing?" Anwule tossed her scarf over her shoulder with pride. This is called city dressing. You people will not understand now, but when I return from the city, you won't even recognize me. And just like that, she became a local celebrity. The other girls started calling her Anwule Fashion. She was the happening babe in town, and she made sure everyone knew it. Finally, the marriage without the groom was completed. Anwulika was now officially a wife, and it was time to go to the city to meet her husband. Emeka was going to receive the shock of his life. So after a grueling, soul-draining business meeting, Emeka dragged himself home, ready to collapse on his bed. But the moment he stepped into his living room, he froze. There, sitting boldly in the middle of the room, was a strange bag. It was large and colorful. His heart skipped a beat. An intruder. Before he could react, a loud, dramatic gasp echoed from the hallway. "Chineke! This house is big like a whole cathedral." Emeka's body stiffened. Someone was inside his house. Slowly, he turned towards the sound, and what he saw nearly made him lose balance. Standing in the middle of his living room was a young woman, her mouth wide open in amazement as she turned in circles, marveling at his ceilings like it was a masterpiece in an art gallery. And her outfit, dear Lord in heaven. She was wearing that same yellow sequin blouse, the long shapeless skirt that defied fashion logic, and he could barely believe his eyes, red rubber slippers. Beside her, looking as pleased as a cat that had just stolen a whole fish, was his mother. "Ah, my son, you are back." "Welcome." Mama Emeka beamed. Then, with the air of someone delivering the best news in the world, she pointed at the strangely dressed woman. "Oya, meet your wife. Her name is Anwulika." Emeka felt his soul leave his body for a brief moment. "My what?" Before he could process what was happening, Anwulika bent so low in greeting that for a second he feared she would kiss the floor. "Husband, I greet you," she said excitedly, flashing him a wide, enthusiastic smile. Emeka took an involuntary step backward. Was this a dream? A prank? Or a cruel joke from the universe? But Mama Emeka continued, like she had just solved the world hunger. Anwuleka will take care of you. She's a good girl who she can cook, she can clean, and she's very respectful. Mama, Emeka finally found his voice. You can't be serious. Oh, but I'm serious, said Mama Emeka, folding her arms. If Muhammad refuses to go to the mountain, then the mountain will go to Muhammad. You have refused to marry and give me grandchildren. So I said, maybe you don't know how to talk to a woman. Or maybe you don't have time. So I decided to help you find a good wife. You should be thanking me. Mama Emeka rubbed his temples in frustration. But Mama, you should have at least informed me. She shot a glance at Anwuleka, who was now busy examining the expensive throw pillows on his couch, pressing them like they were some kind of magical objects. She did not look remotely concerned about the drama unfolding before her. Mama Emeka, however, was done with the conversation. She calmly picked up her handbag, adjusted her wrapper, and turned to leave. Emeka's eyes widened. Mama, you can't leave her here. She's your wife, she said, already halfway to the door. Take care of her. And just like that, Mama Emeka walked out, leaving her son standing there in horror, and leaving Anwuleka grinning like she had just won the jackpot. Emeka turned to Anwuleka, who had now closed her eyes and was dramatically sniffing the air like a detective trying to solve a mystery. Ewo, the air inside this house is different though, she exclaimed, waving her hands as if to gather some of it into her lungs. Then her eyes landed on the air conditioner mounted on the wall, and her mouth fell open in awe. Chai! You even have that breeze machine. What do they call it again, eh? Hi! Money is good though. Emeka closed his eyes and took a deep breath. This was not happening. This had to be a bad dream. If by some unfortunate twist of fate he had been ready to settle down, this was certainly not the kind of woman he would have chosen. He had a type. Classy, well-educated, elegant and polished. A woman who knew when to talk and when to keep quiet. A woman who wouldn't sniff the air in the house like a village herbalist checking for spirits. But this Anwuleka standing before him, she was too loud. She had no filter. Her sense of fashion was a disaster. She looked like someone at the early stages of madness. Emeka sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. This was a nightmare. But what he did not know was that the real nightmare hadn't even started. That night, Emeka went to bed in a state of pure frustration. There was no way he was sharing a bed with Anwuleka. Not tonight, not ever. He had quickly assigned her to a guest room downstairs, while his own room remained safely upstairs, far away from the chaos. But he had already made up his mind. At the first crack of dawn, he would personally escort her back to the village. Anwuleka, on the other hand, had no such plans. She lay comfortably on the bed in her new room, smiling to herself. Mama had already warned her that Emeka would be stubborn, but she was prepared. She would be patient, and starting from tomorrow, she would show him that she was the best wife he could ever have. Very early the next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Emeka marched to Anwuleka's door and knocked sharply. The door creaked open, and there she was, in her oversized night dress, her face glowing with excitement. She saw him and broke into a huge smile. "Good morning, my husband," she greeted happily. Then she stepped aside and opened the door wider. "I knew you would come back. Oya, enter." Emeka, who had only taken a step forward, froze immediately. "Come back? What does this girl mean by come back?" His expression remained firm. "Get dressed and pack your things. I'm taking you back to the village." The smile on Anwuleka's face disappeared. She stared at him as if he had just spoken a foreign language. "Ah, my husband, I'm not going anywhere." Emeka's patience was hanging by a thin thread. I am not your husband, he snapped. Anwulika folded her arms and raised her chin defiantly. See, we are husband and wife, let me just tell you. Your people came to my people and paid bride price. So whether you like it or not, I am your wife. Emeka's eyes widened in pure disbelief. His mind raced. This is actually real. Maybe force wouldn't work. Maybe, just maybe, if he tried a different approach, she would listen. He let out a tired sigh and softened his tone. Okay, please, Anwulika, I beg you. I did not ask for this marriage. I am not ready to marry. Please, just let me take you back to the village. When I'm ready, I will come back and pick you. Anwulika squinted at him suspiciously. My husband. Hey, you want to use my sense? I need to go anywhere. Before Emeka could protest, she gasped loudly and burst into tears. You want my friends to mock me? She wailed. You want the whole village to laugh at me? They will say, see Anwulika. She went to the city and they chased her back. My enemies will celebrate. My husband, don't do this to me now. If there was one thing Emeka hated, it was tears. He groaned and rubbed his forehead again. This girl was going to ruin his life. Fine, he said, defeated. You can stay. But he pointed a strict finger at her. You will remain in your room and you will stay away from mine. Anwulika's tears instantly stopped. She wiped her eyes, flashed him a bright smile and clapped her hands. My husband, you are saying all these things because you have not tried me. I'm a very good girl. Everybody in the village, they like me. I can cook, I can wash, I can do many things. She suddenly beat her chest proudly. And in my family, we are very fertile. If you want 50 children, just say it. Baby factory. Emeka just stood there staring at her, speechless. For the first time in his life, he truly questioned every decision that had led to this moment. He exhaled deeply, turned on his heel, and walked straight back to his room. This was going to be worse than a nightmare. Later that morning, just as Emeka finished getting ready for the gym, because it was Saturday, and Saturday was gym day, he heard a knock on his bedroom door. Who is it? He asked, already suspecting the answer. Your beautiful wife, Anwulika. Anwulika's voice sank through the door. Emeka sighed heavily. Not again. With great reluctance, he opened the door, fully prepared to send her away with a firm warning. But nothing, absolutely nothing could have prepared him for what stood before him. He took one look at Anwulika and he nearly choked on air. She was beaming proudly in what could only be described as a crime against fashion. She was wearing the largest skirt he had ever seen. And the blouse was ugly. It was just plain ugly. And she wore this kind of shoes he had never seen in his life. What in the name of fashion is this? Emeka gasped, his voice almost breaking. Anwulika twirled excitedly, flipping her scarf over her shoulder like a runway model. Do I not look like an Ajebota city girl now? She asked, smiling like she had just won an award. Emeka took a deep breath, then another. You look like a masquerade, he finally blurted out. Anwulika gasped in offense. Haba, masquerade. My husband, don't insult my fashion, no. Where did you even get these clothes? Emeka asked. She huffed dramatically. I picked them myself from Bongo Market. You need to see how people were admiring me. Everybody was saying, this girl has fashion sense. I know fashion with my husband. Emeka placed his hands on his head as if to steady himself. Fashion sense or fashion nonsense? He took a deep breath before asking the next question. Meanwhile, where exactly are you going, dressed like this? Anwulika's face lit up as if she had been waiting for that question. Now you are talking. I'm ready to go to work. Emeka frowned. What work? The place you are working now, Anwuleka announced proudly. Mama told me that you have a big place you are working. In the village, my mother used to follow my father to the farm. So I said I should do and follow my husband to his work too. Emeka shut his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. He was already getting a headache. First of all, he said slowly, trying to contain his frustration, you are never following me to work. Ever. Second, today is Saturday. I don't work on Saturdays. And third, he waved his hand over her entire outfit. You are not going anywhere with me, looking like that. And with that, he shut the door in her face. Anwuleka blinked at the closed door, momentarily confused. But why is he angry? She muttered to herself. Then almost immediately she smiled and nodded. Don't worry, very soon you will like me. With that, she turned on her heels. She had other plans, a better one. Since her husband clearly needed time to adjust to her presence, Anwuleka decided to show him her best qualities. And what better way than through food? A good wife must feed her husband, she said proudly as she marched towards the kitchen. Mama Emeka had shown her how to use all the fancy gadgets the day before, and today she was going to prove that she could cook like no other woman in the world. But as she stepped into the kitchen, she froze. Someone was already there. A strange woman stood in front of the big gas stove, stirring something in a pot. An intruder, a food thief. Anwuleka's mind went into full attack mode. Who is this woman? Why is she cooking in my husband's kitchen? She didn't ask questions. Instead, she tiptoed backwards, silent as a cat, and dashed into the cleaning room. Her eyes landed on a long mop stick. Perfect weapon. Armed and ready, she tiptoed back into the kitchen. The woman was still backing her, oblivious to the danger lurking behind. With all the strength in her body, Anwuleka swung the mop stick and landed it right on the woman's back. Thief! Thief! She screamed at the top of her lungs. I catch you today! The woman yelped in shock and stumbled forward, knocking over a pot in the process. Jesus! Help! Somebody help me, oh! She cried out, trying to escape. But Anwuleka was faster. She jumped on the woman's back, tackling her to the ground. They rolled across the kitchen floor, knocking over plates and spoons. You want to steal food, eh? You picked the wrong house. I have caught you. I have caught you today, Anwuleka declared as she pinned the struggling woman down. Upstairs, Emeka had just stepped out of his room when he heard the screaming. Then bang! Something crashed downstairs. His heart jumped. What in the world is going on? He raced down the stairs, following the noise straight into the kitchen. And there, right before his eyes, was the most ridiculous sight he had ever seen. Anwuleka had a woman pinned to the floor like a professional wrestler. The kitchen was in total chaos. Pots were overturned, oil was spilled, and the woman on the floor was kicking and screaming. What is going on here? Emeka barked. Anwuleka, still holding the woman down, looked up at him with pride. My husband, thank God you are here, she panted. I caught this thief. She was trying to steal food, but don't worry, I have handled her. She cannot run anywhere. The woman, now sobbing, turned her face towards Emeka. Okay, Emeka, she wailed. It's me, Rose, your housekeeper. I was just cooking for you when she attacked me. Emeka's soul left his body. Jesus Christ. Anwuleka, you attacked my housekeeper. Anwuleka gasped. Housekeeper? As in house girl. She turned to look at Rose in shock. You mean she's not a thief? Rose sobbed harder. Emeka dragged his hands down his face. This woman was going to kill him before his time. He took a deep breath and counted to 10. This was just the beginning. The moment Anwulika realized her mistake in attacking poor Rose, she quickly went on her knees dramatically, clutching her chest, as if she had just committed a crime punishable by death. "My husband, I am sorry. I did not know she was your house girl now. See, in the village, if you see someone in your kitchen uninvited, you must take action before they steal your yam or pot of soup." She clapped her hands together, shaking her head. "Ah, my eyes have seen my ears today." Emeka pinched the bridge of his nose again. This was only the first day, and he could already feel his blood pressure climbing to dangerous levels. He turned to Rose, the housekeeper who was still rubbing her back from Anwulika's Koboko-style attack. "Rose, I'm sorry, please just clean up this mess and take the rest of the day off," he said, exasperated. But Anwulika, who was still on her knees, suddenly jumped up. Wait. "My husband, we do not need a house girl. Now that I'm here, I will take care of you." She placed her hands on her waist like a triumphant wrestler. "I can cook, I can clean, I can wash your clothes. I will take care of you better than 10 house girls." Emeka looked at her in disbelief. "So after beating my housekeeper like a thief, now you want to take her job?" "Yes," Anwulika said proudly, nodding her head like an Agama lizard. To avoid further embarrassment, Emeka sighed in defeat and turned to Rose. "Rose, you know what? Just take a 1-month paid leave. Enjoy yourself. As soon as all this is over, you can come back to work." Rose did not argue. She grabbed her bag and ran out of the house before Anwulika would change her mind. Just as Emeka was about to enjoy a moment of silence, Anwulika clapped her hands excitedly. "My husband, where are you going?" "The gym," Emeka muttered, already dreading the conversation that was about to happen. "Ah, I want to follow you. I have never seen gym before." "No," Emeka said firmly. "Please now, I want to see the big city. I will behave myself, I promise." She looked at him with so much excitement that against his better judgment, he sighed and agreed. "But only on one condition. You must wear something normal," he said, eyeing her suspiciously. "Okay, my husband, I will dress like a city girl." No, he said quickly. "Just wear my joggers and a shirt." She happily agreed. That was his mistake. The moment they arrived at the gym building and stepped into the elevator, Anwulika screamed like a Nollywood actress in horror movie. "Jesus! We are inside a flying coffin!" The security man at the entrance quickly turned away to stifle his laughter. The other people in the elevator were already giggling. Emeka closed his eyes. "Anwulika, calm down. You're embarrassing me." "Calm down," she screeched. "This thing is dragging us into the sky. Chineke, is this how city people die every day?" Emeka wanted to vanish. Before he could explain, the elevator doors opened on the 10th floor and Anwulika bolted out. She fell to her knees and kissed the cold tiled floor dramatically. "Ground, I have returned. Thank you, Jesus. Hey, I will never enter that flying thing again." At this point, the entire floor was roaring with laughter. Even the receptionist had tears in her eyes. Emeka, on the other hand, was sweating profusely. He had never felt this level of public disgrace in his life. As soon as Anwulika regained her composure, she turned to admire the massive posh gym. She looked at a muscular man lifting weights and gasped loudly. Ewo, is he preparing for war?" The man heard her, glanced at her confused, and kept lifting, but Anwulika was already marching towards the weights like a warrior ready for battle. "If he can carry it, why can't I?" she said, grabbing a dumbbell with full confidence. The moment she lifted it, her entire body vibrated. I have died. Hey, this thing is heavy, oh my husband." And just like that, bah, the dumbbell slipped from her hands, nearly crashing at her feet. She staggered backward, waving her arms dramatically, like someone trying to regain balance. The entire gym burst into laughter. Trainers, customers, even the receptionist, everyone was either clapping or bent over, holding their stomachs. Emeka had seen enough. He grabbed her arm and whispered urgently, "We are going home, now." "But why?" Anwuleka asked innocently, wiping imaginary sweat from her forehead. "Because I have had enough disgrace for one day." With that, he grabbed the unwilling Anwuleka out of the gym, past the laughing crowd, past the confused security man, and into the car. As they drove home, Anwuleka hummed happily to herself. She was totally unaware of the wahala she was causing for Emeka. "My husband, this city life is sweet though. I like it here." Emeka just gripped the steering wheel tighter, staring straight ahead. He was never leaving the house with Anwuleka again. But the day was not over yet. On their way home, they ran into the worst thing any Lagos driver would encounter: traffic. Cars stretched endlessly in long, frustrating queues. Angry horns blared from all directions. Impatient drivers shouted insults at one another, each convinced they were the only ones in a hurry. The sun blazed mercilessly, heating up the tarred road like a frying pan. Emeka sighed, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "My husband, why are these people always in a rush?" Anwuleka asked from the passenger seat, her eyes wide with fascination. "Are they chasing something?" "This is Lagos," Emeka muttered. "If you don't hurry, someone else will hurry for you." Finally, after what felt like hours, the road began to clear up. Just as Emeka pressed on the accelerator, a sleek black car suddenly attempted to overtake him from the wrong side. Emeka did not see the car on time, and as he moved forward, both cars grazed each other, leaving long scratches on their sides. Before Emeka could react, the driver from the other side, a woman, stormed out of the car, about to unleash destruction. She was tall, dressed in designer clothes, and high-heeled shoes that clacked against the asphalt as she marched towards Emeka's side of the car. "You! Are you blind?" she shrieked. "How dare you scratch my car?" Emeka closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and stepped out to assess the damage. Before he could even speak, the woman grabbed his shirt. "You are very stupid. Do you know how much my car costs? Do you have money to repair it?" She raged, shaking him like a stubborn generator. Emeka, who usually avoided public scenes, tried to calm her down, but she was already causing a commotion. A small crowd gathered, ready for the premium entertainment that only Lagos traffic could provide. Then, before anyone could blink, bah! The woman slapped Emeka. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Drivers abandoned their cars. Street vendors stopped selling. Even traffic itself seemed to pause for the drama. Inside the car, Anwuleka had been watching the whole thing unfold. Her face froze in shock. She had seen disrespect before, but this was the height of it. Then the slap landed. Anwuleka's eyes nearly popped out of her head. "Sophia kwa!" She bolted out of the car like a bullet. "Hey! Hello! Abomination!" She pointed at the woman, her entire body vibrating with rage. "See this agric fowl! You slapped my husband. Today, I will show you pepper." Before Emeka could react, Anwuleka had already pounced on the woman like a wrestling champion. Bah! 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 3 quick calculated slaps landed on the woman's face before she even knew what was happening. The crowd erupted in excitement. Some started recording with their phones, while others cheered Anwuleka on. The woman screamed and tried to fight back, but she was no match for Anwuleka, who grabbed her expensive wig and flung it into the air like a celebratory flag. "You want to slap my husband? You want to slap my Odogo? Eh? Anwuleka shouted, holding the woman down effortlessly. You think you are mad? I will show you today that I am madder than you. The woman was screaming for help, but nobody came to her rescue. The spectators simply nodded in approval, whispering that she deserved it. When Emeka was satisfied, he rushed forward and pulled Anwuleka off the woman. She was still vibrating with anger. My husband, you should have let me finish her, she fumed, pointing at the disheveled woman, who was now nursing her swollen face. Next time, she will have respect. Emeka, who had been fuming with anger just minutes ago, suddenly felt something unexpected. A warm, bubbly laughter rising in his chest. For the first time in a very long time, someone had stood up for him. He was always the one protecting others, always the one fighting for fairness. But today, this wild, dramatic, hilarious woman had fought for him, and it felt good. It's okay, Anwule, he said, still smiling. I think you beat her enough. Her eyes are already closing on their own. They both burst into laughter like two naughty children who had just gotten away with a prank. As they drove home, Anwuleka kept talking about the incident. My husband, I swear, if you had left me small, I would have rearranged her face. Imagine, she wanted to disgrace my husband in public. Does she think I am a mate? Emeka just chuckled, shaking his head. Who was this woman? And why was he starting to enjoy her madness? By the time they reached home, they were both tired. The day had already been filled with more drama than an entire season of a Nollywood series. Emeka was exhausted. He had barely survived the gym, the elevator, and now the traffic fight. He needed to rest before his friend Ahmed came over for their usual weekend hangout. Let me sleep small, he told Anwuleka as he headed upstairs. She beamed at him. No problem, my husband. When you wake, I will have a surprise for you. Too tired to ask questions, Emeka just waved her off and disappeared into his room. Meanwhile, Anwuleka marched straight into the kitchen. She had big plans. I will show my husband that I am your wife material, she declared to herself, rolling up her sleeves. She had come prepared. Before leaving the village, she had packed all the ingredients she needed to cook 5-star traditional meals. She brought out her massive dried fish, her native spices, her crayfish, ogiri, and her thick village palm oil. Then she grabbed the tubers of yam from the kitchen store, set everything on the counter. First, she prepared a rich pot of egusi soup, thick with meat, fish, and enough seasoning to wake the ancestors. Then she set out to work on the pounded yam. The sight of the fancy electric blender in the corner tempted her, but she shook her head. My husband must eat proper pounded yam, not this soft thing that city people eat. So she found herself a mortar and pestle and pounded the yam with the strength of a warrior. By the time she was done, she wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled proudly. When my husband tastes this food, he will forget all those city girls he wanted to marry, and even that thing, housekeeper rules. He will forget all of them. She set the table carefully, making sure everything looked perfect. Then she went to wake Emeka up. The moment he opened his door, the aroma hit him like a tidal wave. His stomach growled in response. What is that thing I perceive? He asked, rubbing his eyes. Anwuleka grinned. Come and see for yourself, my husband. I told you I'll have a surprise for you. As Emeka followed her to the dining table, he had an odd feeling, something he hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, his house felt like a home. When Emeka took the first bite, something magical happened. The rich flavors exploded on his tongue, deep, spicy, and utterly delicious. It was unlike anything he had ever tasted. He had eaten different kinds of well-prepared meals in top-class restaurants, but this was on another level entirely. He closed his eyes and chewed slowly, savoring every bit. The egusi soup was thick, perfectly spiced, and the fish was so tender and so flavorful that he almost groaned in pleasure. The pounded yam was just the way he liked it, smooth, stretchy, and soft. Anwuleka sat across from him, her hand folded on her lap, watching with wide, expectant eyes. She did not say a word. She did not interrupt. She just sat there, glowing with pride, as she watched him devour the food like a starving man. After licking the last bit of soup off his fingers, he leaned back and let out a deep sigh of satisfaction. Anwuleka beamed and stood up to clear the plates. "My husband, did you enjoy the food?" Emeka burst into a hearty laughter. "Enjoy? I more than enjoyed it too. The pounded yam was exactly the way I like it. And the soup. Where did you get that fish and those ingredients? I don't remember going to the market, and I'm sure that Rose has not stocked up." He gave her a curious look. Anwuli giggled, pleased with herself. "Hey, I brought them from the village specially for you." She grinned. "Thank God you enjoyed it." Emeka shook his head in amusement and thanked her again. As she cleared the table, he found himself smiling for no reason. There was something refreshing about Anwuleka, her excitement, her confidence, the way she poured her heart out into things. He couldn't really explain it, but for the first time in a long time, he felt good. Still basking in his good mood, Emeka heard a knock on the door, and Anwuleka went to answer it. It was Ahmed, his closest friend. He stood there momentarily stunned. Emeka never brought women home, never. His eyes swept over Anwuleka, taking in her outfit. Then he shrugged. Maybe Emeka had hired a new housekeeper. Anwuli greeted him cheerfully, stepped aside, and a few minutes later, the two men were settled in at the minibar Emeka had set up outside his house, watching a football game. But Emeka wasn't paying attention. His mind was elsewhere. Earlier that morning, he had been so sure that Anwuleka was going back to the village. But now, he wasn't so sure anymore. She was full of life, always happy and completely unbothered by what people thought of her. He had barely paid her any real attention before. But that evening at the dining table, he had taken a proper look at her. She was beautiful, and the way she had fought for him in traffic still made him smile when he thought about it. Plus the food. Oh, the food. A man could get used to eating like that every day. Ahmed, who had been talking for a while without any response, finally frowned. "Guy, what's wrong with you? I've been talking and you've just been nodding like an Agama lizard. Are you okay?" Emeka sighed and leaned forward. "Omo, Guy, a lot has happened since yesterday." Ahmed raised an eyebrow. "Happened? Like what?" "Did you not see the girl that answered the door?" Ahmed shrugged. Your new housekeeper." Emeka scoffed. "Housekeeper care? That girl is my wife." Ahmed nearly choked on his drink. Your what?" "I came home yesterday and met her here with my mother. Apparently, my family had married a wife for me without a consent from the village." Ahmed burst into uncontrollable laughter. "You, wife?" "Ahmed, this is not even funny." Ahmed tried to compose himself. Okay, I get it. So, what's the problem? You don't like her?" Emeka's expression became more serious. "That's the problem. This morning I wanted to send her back to the village. She refused and started crying, saying the whole village would laugh at her and all of that. I pitied her, so I let her stay. But Guy, you won't believe the things I've seen today. Firstly, she attacked Rose, thinking she was a thief. Then Guy, you should have seen the drama at the gym." Emeka shook his head, chuckling. "It was so funny, but I was so embarrassed. And then the highlight of the day, she beat the hell out of this woman that harassed me and slapped me in traffic. Ahmed's jaw dropped. She did what? Emeka laughed. Omo, she flogged that woman. At first I was shocked though, but it was hilarious. Emeka's eyes lit up. Then, if you taste her food, you will confirm this girl can cook. Ahmed eyed his friend suspiciously. So, what's your plan now? What are you saying? The smile slowly disappeared from Emeka's face. I don't know. He rubbed his temple. You know the kind of woman I like now. Guy, this girl is a total village girl. If you see the way she dresses, she dresses like a masquerade. Today I had to loan her my joggers and a shirt because I nearly had a heart attack when I saw what she was wearing. Ahmed sat back and studied his friend for a long moment. Then he spoke. So, my assessment of the situation is this. You are starting to like this girl already. Emeka frowned. What? Ahmed smirked. Yes, she makes you smile. And you light up when you talk about her. See the way you are smiling like a baby that they give a lollipop. But your problem is that she's too village-like for you. Emeka scoffed but said nothing. Ahmed shrugged. This is simple. Rebrand her and make her look like your type of woman. Take her shopping, buy her the things you'd like her to wear, teach her color combinations, and teach her etiquette, groom her. These things are not difficult like that. Emeka stared at him, considering his words. Ahmed continued. See, no woman is perfect, and no man is perfect either. The girl obviously adores you, and guy, you can't find that every day. Don't take it for granted. It's not as if you two are perfect, you that don't even smile. Later that night, as Emeka lay in bed, Ahmed's words replayed in his mind. Rebrand her, teach her, groom her. It did not seem like a bad idea, not at all. The next morning, Emeka woke up with a plan. If he was going to keep Anwuleka around, he might as well refine her. Ahmed was right. She was already green on him, but her village ways were too much. If he could shape her into a sophisticated woman who matched his lifestyle, maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't be such a disaster. As he stepped out of his room, he found Anwuleka humming happily in the living room, sweeping the floor with so much enthusiasm that her wrapper threatened to come undone. She was still full of energy, as if she hadn't spent half the day fighting, screaming and causing chaos the day before. She turned and flashed him a big innocent smile. Good morning, my husband. You're awake. Emeka sighed. This was going to be a long journey. Good morning, Anwuleka. He sat down and cleared his throat. We need to talk. She stopped sweeping immediately and came to sit beside him, giving him her full attention. Hey, my husband. Talk about what? I hope there's no problem. He hesitated. There's no problem, Anwule. I want to ask you, did you like the city? She grinned. Yes, very much. Everything is shining. The houses are so fine and the cars are big. Even the air smells different. Emeka nodded. Good. Since you want to stay in the city, you need to look and act like a city woman. Anwuleka frowned. But I already look like a city woman. You saw my fine dressing yesterday. It's just that you don't appreciate me. Emeka groaned. That was not fine dressing, Anwuleka. She gasped. But people were looking at me. And the girls in my village, they were just singing my praises, hailing me, calling me Anwule fashion. Yes, Emeka interrupted. That was because you looked like a circus performer. A circus performer? What is circus? What do you want me to do? He leaned forward. I'll take you shopping today. We will get you nice clothes, shoes, and handbags. Then I'll teach you how to walk, talk, and behave like a proper city woman. Anwuleka's face lit up. Shopping? Like in those big fine store? Yes. She clapped her hands excitedly. I'm ready. Let me go and bath. Emeka chuckled as she ran off. He had to admit, her excitement about the smallest things was contagious. He drove her to one of the biggest and most expensive boutiques in the city. The moment they walked in, Anwuleka's eyes widened in amazement. She turned to Emeka, her voice hushed, as if she had stepped into a sacred temple. My husband, are you sure we are supposed to be here? This place is fine like heaven. Emeka chuckled. Yes, we are supposed to be here. Now let's get you some clothes. It was an experience. Anwuleka walked through the aisles of designer dresses, running her fingers over the silky fabrics, staring at the mannequins dressed in elegant outfits. When a saleswoman approached her with a dress and asked her to try it on, she hesitated. You mean I will remove my clothes inside here? What if someone see me? The saleswoman stifled a laugh. Emeka sighed and smiled. Anwuli, that's why there's a changing room. Nobody will see you. After much persuasion, Anwuleka finally tried on a beautiful fitted black gown. When she stepped out, Emeka nearly forgot how to breathe. The girl was stunning. For the first time, he saw her properly. Beneath those baggy, mismatched clothes she used to wear, she had a perfect figure. The dress hugged her in all the right places, and her smooth brown skin glowed under the boutique lights. Emeka blinked. Dear Lord. He cleared his throat. You look beautiful. Anwuleka twirled, looking at her reflection in the mirror. I look like a rich Lagos madam, she gasped. This cloth is fine. Oh. I will wear this one home. Emeka smiled. Take as many as you want. That was all the encouragement Anwuleka needed. She picked out different trendy clothes, gowns, jeans, blouses, and even high-heel shoes. She had no idea how to walk in them yet, but she was excited. By the time they left the boutique, Emeka had spent a small fortune, but it did not matter. Money was not his problem. He had created a masterpiece. Next, he took her to a high-end beauty salon. The hairstylists welcomed them warmly, and Anwuleka sat down. When they asked what style she wanted, she turned to Emeka, unsure. Tell them to do that one that big city girls do, she whispered. The hairstylists laughed. Don't worry, madam, we'll take care of you. It took hours, but the transformation was worth it. By the time they finished braiding her full, rich afro hair, her beauty was completely enhanced. The fine new clothes, the expensive shoes she was wearing, and now the perfect hair. Anwuleka looked like a completely different person. When she stepped out of the salon, Emeka simply stared. She tilted her head. My husband, is something wrong? He shook his head, smiling. No, I just did not know you were this beautiful. Anwuleka grinned and flicked her new braids over her shoulder. Hey, my enemies will cry today. Emeka chuckled. Ahmed was right. You could make a lemonade out of a lemon. Now that she looked like a city girl, the next challenge was teaching her how to act like one. That part was the hardest one. Anwuleka was still Anwuleka, loud, dramatic, and completely unbothered by societal expectations. At dinner that day, he tried to teach her how to eat properly with a fork and knife. She stared at the utensils as if they were weapons of war. So, my husband, I will now sit down and use this small thing to be chasing my food around the plate, instead of just using my hand and eating like a human being. Anwuli, this is how civilized people eat. Anwuli groaned but tried it. After struggling for 5 minutes, she dropped the fork. I give up. My husband, this food is suffering. Let me eat it in peace. At that point, Emeka realized that you could take a girl out of the village, But she could never take the village out of the girl. And then he burst into a hearty laughter. He had started to enjoy her presence. At first, he thought he was just tolerating her, but soon he realized he liked having her around. She made him laugh a lot. He had never laughed this much in his life. There was never a dull moment with Anwuleka. She cooked the best meals, the best he had ever tasted. She cared for him in ways he did not know he could be cared for. She looked at him as if he were her personal god. And when she smiled at him, it did something strange to his heart. Weeks passed, and one evening, as she sat beside him, eating noisily with her hands, he simply stared at her. "What?" she asked. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Emeka smiled. "Nothing. I just realized something." What? What is that?" He took a deep breath. "I love you just the way you are." Anwuleka blinked, then slowly a mischievous smile spread across her face. Hey, so I have finally entered your heart, Abi?" He laughed. "Yes, Anwule, you have finally entered my heart." She clapped her hands in victory. "Ewo, my village people will hear this one. Shebi I told you that if you try me, you will like me." Emeka shook his head, smiling. He had spent so much time trying to change her, but now he realized he did not want her to change. And just like that, Anwuleka and Emeka lived together in love. However, peace was not guaranteed, because a tiger could never change its stripes. Hey lovers, thank you for listening to this story. If you are new here, welcome to our community. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button. And to support the growth of our community, give this video a big thumbs up. If you know someone who would enjoy a story like this, do not hesitate to share. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Remember, like, share, drop a comment and subscribe. I'll take my leave now, but I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.